And let me share my screen. So any questions, as always, just pop them in the chat. And then what we'll do is come back around again at the end. Right, give me 2 seconds while I get this bad boy on. Right, can everybody see my screen okay? Let me just make sure I can see the chat. Can everybody see that all right? Yeah, perfect. I can see thumbs up. Right, let me just remove the chat. So, sleep and recovery, which is it's an enormous part of what we do inside of this program and inside of life goals in general. So, we're going to take you through it. But first of all, as we've been doing, I just want to take a moment to celebrate these women inside of the program. So, the first one is Chloe Gibbs, who is literally the silent workhorse. And I'll be honest, she's not mega active in the community, and some women are, and some women aren't. And either way is absolutely fine. It's there for the women that want to use it, and for those of you that would prefer not to, that's absolutely fine as well. Like, but she is absolutely chipping away silently in the background. And as you know, Kat and I go through every single woman inside of the program every Monday, get a gauge of where people are at, where they need more support, what else we need to be doing. And Chloe is just smashing it week on week. Jojo, I wanted to give you a shout out because she has lost over 35 pounds. And we have officially just started Jojo's reverse diet, which is absolutely fucking amazing. And obviously, that's the point where we want to get every single woman inside of this program to, so that we never end up putting all of the body fat back on that we've spent all of this time fucking losing, quite honestly. But that's a massive, massive milestone. So well done, Joe, who is on and live with us as well. So well done. Kelly Page. So Kelly had a bit of a wobble, which we all do. Mentally, I think at the beginning of last week, she just felt like she just needed that extra bit of support. So she reached out to Kat and I and just said, look, can we, do you know what I mean? Like spend a bit of time together, look at this, discuss that. And that's exactly what we did. So massive, massive appreciation, because if we don't know you're suffering or struggling or needing that support, then it's really difficult for us to give it to you guys. But Kelly reached out, she did the right thing, and she felt a million times better off the back of just having a conversation. And that's what we're here to do. And then Becca, I don't know whether you're on or not because I've only got 5 women on my screen. I can't see everybody at this moment in time. But Becca's got a lot of shit going on in the background of her life. Like a lot of things with hospital appointments, loved ones, parents staying over, walking the dog, little girl. Massively hectic time of the year for her. She works in the kind of accountancy field. Trust me, I can relate. I've fucking done enough taxes in the last couple of weeks. Like, there's a lot going on, but she still manages to chip away, control the controllables every single week in, week out, no matter what's thrown in her direction. So, and that again is the goal for everybody. We're not always going to have 10 out of 10 A-star weeks, but we want to control the pieces of the puzzle that we can. And that is exactly what Becca does week in, week out. So super, super proud. But we're here to talk about why sleep is crucial. So we're going to start off with why it's so important in terms of strength training, but we will bring in other areas as well. So when your body, there's actually different sleep states that we go into overnight. Anybody that actually wears a Whoop will have a better understanding of this. So I know Sarah inside of the program does. I don't know that anybody else has got one, but I know she definitely has. And basically, when we go into a sleep state, so obviously, as you know, when we're training, we're breaking down the muscle fibers, and that's why you feel a little bit sore. That's why you know it's working. You can feel those muscles that we should be feeling. And what happens is when we drop into a deep sleep, so during those stages 3 and 4 of your sleep cycle, this is when your body is actually doing its recovery. So it's not recovering during the day, it happens when you drop into that deep sleep. Now, everybody's deep sleep variations are a little bit different every night, but the more sleep you can get, the more likely you are going to actually drop into that deep state of sleep. And this is where your body and muscles are going to go into repair mode. So it is absolutely vital that we really think about replenishing our muscle fibers and actually getting them on the mend again through our sleep. But it's not just that. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone that we all have inside of our bodies, if you don't get a good night's sleep or your sleep is shortened for any reason, then it's going to increase your stress hormone, which can absolutely lead to storing body fat, which is the exact thing that we don't want to be doing. So, again, by dropping into a decent amount of sleep a night, you're going to be reducing your stress levels, actually allowing your body to go into a rested state and your brain as much as your body to drop into that rested state, which again is going to massively help with actually reducing those stress levels because we really don't want to elevate them where we can. Energy restoration, the ATP, which is basically your body's energy currency for muscle contraction. So we're moving again a lot throughout the day. Again, that's going to be replenished overnight when we go to sleep. It's also going to help your immune system. So, for any of you ladies who feel like you're constantly poorly, and let's be honest, it is rife, it's still doing the rounds. I'm not sure that a week has gone by for a very fucking long time, it feels like, where somebody in the program has not come down with a sickness. And this is another thing. And this is why one of the first things you will always hear leave my mouth when you say you're poorly. I'm going to tell you, you need to get a lot of rest. And included in rest is going to be a lot of sleep. Now, your body organically wants you to do that. So if you get the flu and you end up bedbound, your body is physically telling you, I need this sleep. So that's why you don't have a choice when you actually have the flu. When it's a cold, you can probably operate and move around and whatnot, but you still really want to focus on actually getting some rest and trying to get some really decent sleep under your belt because it is going to help you fight off that fitness. It's going to help you stay out of illness. And obviously, again, we want to try and make sure that we are as healthy as we can for this journey. So that's kind of the first stages, and that deep sleep is absolutely vital. And how long do we actually need to spend in a deep sleep then? And again, this is quite person specific. And if you really are interested, like I say, the Whoop, I think it is a monthly plan of about 30, £35 a month. So it is an ongoing cost, but really, really good if you are super serious about actually something reading your sleep while you go to bed. But the first half of the night is usually when you actually get the most amount of deep sleep throughout the whole night that you are actually in bed. If you cut that deep sleep short, you are missing an essential phase. And if you're waking up frequently, so Victoria, you mentioned in your check-in at the, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but she was like, I go for a wee 3 times in a night. And I'm like, we need to try and caveat that as much as we can by stopping drinking liquid really like as early into the evening, so more like 7, 8 o'clock, to make sure that we're not constantly getting up throughout the night. Again, I know some of you guys have got children, and if you've got really young children, then this is why you massively notice it. So when somebody first has a baby, and they're suddenly losing an enormous amount of sleep, it massively hits them like a train. And this is what, again, you can't really do much about that, especially if you are the one obviously getting up, doing the feeds, doing different things. But we want to try and caveat, and that's why they say you sleep when the baby sleeps. So you're still actually trying to build up your sleep. But we obviously want to make sure that we're getting as much sleep as possible. So, what happens if you don't get enough sleep? Well, naturally, you are jeopardizing the opportunity for your muscle recovery, which is really what we don't want to be doing inside of this program. If you're training really close to failure, we need to recover as much as we can. And in an ideal world, this is why we say a lot of you guys are on a 3 day full body split program. In an ideal world, you would train on a day, rest on a day, train on a day, rest on a day, train on a day, and then maybe have a couple of days rest, depending on how it falls. But again, this is why it's so important. Even if that schedule might not work well for some of you guys, you might have to train back to back for 2 days. But if you're not getting enough sleep in between, you might actually want to consider, is it going to serve me more actually having a rest day and not training too close to when I just did and actually making sure that I get a decent night's sleep? Or do I actually want to push through? And again, the more you learn your body, the more you can actually understand which one of those options is going to serve you better. you are at a higher injury risk. So if you again you want to maximize your sessions and you don't want to get injured, speaking from the woman who is injured, but this is it. You want to make sure again that you're getting that sleep so that we're not overtraining, so that we're not under replenished when we are actually going into those sessions. You might also notice that if your ATP is not fully restored, then you probably are going to be hitting those sessions feeling a bit weaker. So again, it's that consideration. Do I need the rest or should I actually hit this session and really analyze it? Because if you've had a terrible night's sleep, you might really want to think about actually, I don't want to get injured. I actually know I'm going to have a slightly shitter session. So I might just be better off backing off of this one. Increased cravings and fat retention. There is an enormous amount of research that's been done in this that again, if your stress hormone as cortisol, sorry, stays elevated, then it can quite easily trigger those increased cravings and obviously as a result that fat retention, which again none of us want to be storing any more body fat than we would like. This is why we also teach you not to train fasted. If you train first thing in the morning, it's one of the worst things you can do because, again, you're going to spike those cortisol levels. And that is not what we want because we don't want to store body fat. We want to actually fuel our bodies ahead of that session. So, a banana, Rice Krispie Square, some rice cakes, just something to get it into your system so that we can attack our sessions with that fuel already in our body. But we don't want to be holding on to that body fat. Mental fatigue. How many of you guys have had a shit night's sleep and then you take it out on every single human around you and your loved ones and your family and your kids or whoever's around you, even in the workplace? If you're not getting enough sleep, again, your body will leave clues and your mind will start to take that out on those around you. And it makes you a lot less kind of a person to be around. So we don't want that irritability, irrational side of our behavior that starts to come out where you feel really low in energy and you're essentially just crashing. So the optimal amount of sleep for women, especially who are strength training, so it does vary, and you guys will know. You'll have a good idea of what's optimal for you. So I am an 8 hours girly. If you take away my 8 hours, I am going to be an absolute bitch sack. I know it. And everyone around me is going to be aware of it. So I am quite religious on my sleep. I'm not going to lie. Like if like some of you guys, when you say you're up after 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, whoa. Even if I go somewhere, like we've got plans, and even New Year's Eve, I'm like, no, I'd rather be in my bed, guys. I'm just gonna throw it out there. That's just it's who I am. I don't operate well on a low amount of sleep. But again, those of you who have had children, you might feel differently. You might feel a bit like actually you can function on a lower proportion of sleep because you've had to. You've had to go through a window where that has been your life. So you guys might be okay on 7 hours. Some of you guys are going to need 9 hours, but usually that 7 to 9 hour window is around optimal. Less than 6 hours, this is where you are going to put your muscle protein synthesis, injury risk is going to go up, and performance is going to come down. But quality over quantity is again always going to serve you more. So if you get 6 hours quality sleep where it's unbroken, poor recovery, like all of these things, we obviously want to mitigate against. So we had it where we got Hector, and obviously he was a puppy and he needed to get up for the bathroom. My God, it nearly buried me. And I soon learned we're crate trading the fuck out of this because he needs to learn how to sleep. Now, sometimes Thomas will actually be like, no, I want to sleep with the dogs. And I'm like, I will end you. I will end you if you make that decision. And you all know how much I love the dogs, but that life's not for me. So put it in the chat for you guys. How much sleep do you guys think that you actually benefit from in the night? Like, what is that for you? What's your take on your magic number? Because I'll be interested to come back to that at the end. Interesting fact, women actually need more sleep than men. Again, I love to remind Thomas of this because I'm like, you can live, because I swear he can live on way less sleep than me. And it's really noticeable. And he trains as hard as I do, probably harder because he doesn't have anywhere near the level of rest days that I actually take in a week. But this is it. I'm like, it's wild. But there is a lot of studies done on this. And one of them is from Duke University, who basically said, the women's brains, and it kind of is coming down to, when they say women can multitask really well and men cannot, they focus in on one thing, singular, and they just focus in on that. Whereas women don't. Our brains are moving around so much more in what we're actually trying to focus on. And we have to learn quite quickly a lot of the time as well how to multitask in a way that usually the world lives a little bit differently for men. And that actually means, again, we are using more energy throughout the day and we need more sleep for that cognitive recovery. So it's our brains that are actually saying, I need this sleep. Your menstrual cycle, we all know we burn more calories during a menstrual cycle. Our bodies are working harder. Pregnancy, another massive one where women are going to need their sleep, and the menopause, all of these things, perimenopausal women, it can impact your sleep, making it harder for you to get that uninterrupted sleep pattern. So this is where you might need a little bit more sleep and you might need to go to bed that little bit earlier if you are impacted by some of the hot flashes, the night sweats, the insomnia. These are really, really typical symptoms for women that are in that anywhere in that menopausal phase. So this is where sleep is going to be your best friend, and you need to make sure that you take this piece of your training quite seriously. So that we kind of touched on this, didn't we, with the cortisol levels, but sleep deprivation is essentially increasing your hunger hormone and it's also lowering your fullness hormone. So it's spiking your hunger levels and it's dropping your ability to feel satisfied when you do eat. Again, two completely things that we do not want to be doing for anyone that is actually focusing on dropping body fat or keeping the body fat off. If you're in a reverse diet or in maintenance, we want to make sure that these things are aligned and not actually going against us. So you are going to feel more cravings. You're going to feel like you just want that quick convenience foods, and the brain is wanting that quick energy. So rather than thinking, you know what, yeah, I'm going to make the time to make a proper lunch and a proper dinner and a proper breakfast, you're going to start grabbing at things because your brain is telling you, I am immediately needing something to take this edge off. But that's counterintuitive to what we actually want to be doing while we fuel ourselves with as many whole foods as we can. So, chronic sleep deprivation has been proven to reduce calorie burn by around 5 to 20%. So, it is actually impacting your ability to burn those calories like we obviously want to do. We want to be operating at our highest possible standards that we can. So if your fat loss has stalled, which it hasn't for anyone in this program, but if it ever does at any point, this is something we are going to be asking you. We are going to be making sure, how is your sleep? How are you feeling? Like, how are all of these things going on in your world? And we're going to make sure that we're tracking it really, really closely. I want to talk to you about the snooze button. So I can almost guarantee every single woman in this program, and myself included, let's be honest, we are human. Every now and again, we're hitting that snooze button. Some of you guys might even be doing it every damn day. But I want you to think about, why do we do this? So everybody thinks about, when do I need to get up? So when do I need to get into the office or start my day, even if it's at home? When do I need to get my gym session in, get my home workout in? Right, I'm going to work it all back. And that's the time that you think, right, I'll get up at that time. That might be 6 a.m., it might be 7 a.m. for some of you guys. But what we actually want to consider is how we are actually waking up and how we are actually starting our day. Because if you are starting your day with hitting that snooze button, there is a lot of evidence to suggest it's going to kill your productivity by around 4 hours. Now, that's the predominance of the morning for most of you guys. And depending on what time you do get up, you're just knocking that on and you're just kicking the can down the road and you're not starting your day optimally. The reason why this is the case and why it's destroying your productivity is because what happens is we actually sleep in 90 to 110-minute cycles. So we go through sleep cycles throughout the whole night. And when you essentially hit that snooze button, you're sending yourself back into a sleep cycle, but you're only hitting the snooze button for maybe 9 minutes, I think is the typical Apple setup. Some of you guys might do it for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that might be. But what you're then doing is dropping yourself into what's called sleep inertia. And it actually has a name because it's that widely studied now. And you're actually, so when your alarm goes off, you should be in wake up mode. You should be thinking, right, okay, I'm slowly coming out of the sleep state. I'm gradually waking up. I'm now going to go about my day. But if you hit that snooze button, you're going straight back into a sleep cycle. But what you're doing is cutting it at 9 minutes. And then you might do another 9 minutes and drop into another one. Then you might do another 9 minutes and drop into another one. And suddenly 30 odd minutes of time, you've just been triggering your brain in and out of a sleep cycle, but it can't complete the cycle. So that's why, and you will all know what I'm talking about. Once you've hit that snooze button, I can see you all shaking your heads, that groggy, mental hangover feeling where you just feel like utter crap. That is your brain struggling to actually focus in an awake cycle, which is where it needs to be, because you forced it back into a sleep cycle. So you almost always feel worse for hitting the snooze button than if you actually just got up in the first place. So what you're doing is you're essentially the cortical part of your brain is responsible for the decision making, your attention, your alertness, your self-control, and all you're doing is squashing it. So you're actually taking some of the things that we need to function, even to make a decision about, again, what shall I have for breakfast? Shower, get the kids ready, do this, do that. And again, you'll notice you start snapping again. You start taking it out on everybody else around you. You start feeling a little bit shit. And that's because you've not allowed your brain to actually wake up and live its best life. And as career women, inside of this program, you are all high achievers. You are all busy women. You all manage 1,000,001 things to do in a day. So what we want to do is actually wake up as the best kick-ass versions of ourselves. And that means getting the fuck away from that snooze button. If you genuinely want to perform at your highest possible vibrations, that has to be a habit that you leave in the past. Now, how can we do this? Now, Mel Robbins, some of you guys, I'm sure, will have actually, like, I've read a lot of her books. A lot of you guys will have seen her on social media. You might have listened to her podcast, but she's got the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, and she applies this to lots of different things. But this is one of the areas that she actually talks about. So if you're thinking, oh God, my alarm's gone off, I really don't want to get up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up. And you actually tangibly say the words out loud, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you move. And you actually physically force yourself out of the very warm, very comfortable pit that you are in at this time of year where it feels dark, it feels cold. If you're like us, you don't know where your thermostat is for the house, we've fully lost it, so we have no heating on in the morning. It is Baltic. Let me tell you, we're still in a renovation despite the fact this room looks great. But that's it. The rest of the house does not look like this. But this is it. You got to get yourself moving. Put your phone, if you are using your phone, put your phone at the other end of the goddamn room. Make sure that you are giving yourself a reason, because you're not going to leave that alarm just going off, are you? You're going to get up and you're physically going to move yourself. Then go for a wee. Do those activities, and I promise you, you're very unlikely to go to bed at that point because you've done the hardest part, which is actually pulling off the cover and getting out of bed. You could go old school. This feels wild, doesn't it? The concept of actually having an alarm clock. I'd be interested in the chat if anyone actually does use an alarm clock. But this is it. Again, use an old school alarm clock that you set at night. put it at the other side of your room, and then you're not even going to end up in a scroll hole. This is a massive trick for any of you guys that the first thing you do, like you probably don't hear from me before 8:30 in the morning, maybe slightly earlier, but 9 times out of 10, I am deliberately parking my phone because it's really important for me to practice as I preach. I'm going to go out and I'm going to hit my gym session and I'm going to start my day for me rather than sitting in a ton of messages, going back and forth to everybody, messaging back in the group chat. Like, again, it's the same for you guys. Don't go into your emails. Don't go into Instagram. Don't go into all of these different places. Start your day for you. And if anyone's struggling to find time, again, and you're hitting the snooze button, we're going to call bullshit on that. Drink a pint of freezing cold water. There are so many benefits to starting your day with just downing a glass of water. So that again is really good practice. Get up, put your alarm off at the other side of the room, go for a wee, go and grab a really, really cold glass of water. It's immediately going to wake up your nervous system. And again, it's going to be really, really difficult to want to go back to bed at that point. But it's also going to flush out all the toxins as well. So really, really good best practice there. But if you are feeling exhausted, struggling with fat loss, or not recovering well from workouts, your sleep may well be the missing key. So try and think about aiming for an extra 30 to 60 minutes a night and see how your energy, see how cravings, and see how your performance might just change. And that could be the missing piece of the puzzle that you might have just overlooked. So we're going to do any questions. Right, let me just stop that share. Let me go to chat box because I am intrigued to see the answers. So during the week, about 7.5 hours, depending on how quickly I can get to sleep. Try and be in bed for 9:30. That is commitment, Rach. That is commitment. And then get up at 5:30. But this is it. You're getting up really, really early. So anyone whose day is starting with a 5, and take note, there are women inside of this program. I am also one of the ladies that can quite easily start my day with a 5. If that's you, your night end probably does need to begin with a 9. And these are some of the conversations we've been having in the check-ins this week. Definitely grumpy as hell if I don't get sufficient sleep. However, since joining the program and when I actually go to the gym, I sleep way better. I need to cut down on the screen time of an evening, though. A lot of people do. That's a common thing about cutting down on the screen time. But yeah, you will notice the difference between a tired body who has given it the beans throughout the day versus when you actually don't necessarily train that day. There usually is a little bit of difference between your body really then needing the sleep versus just going, right, okay, I'm just going to get my 8 hours out of habit. I'm going to get it out of habit whether I train or not, guaranteed. 8 hours, usually 8 hours for me. I'm assuming that is Becky. I don't know, but I'm sure you always come up as iPhone. 8 hours, as much as I can, but usually 7 to 8 hours, 7-ish. I need 8, but probably get about 4. I struggle to fall asleep and wake up a lot. It's a real problem. Jess, that is definitely something that needs a decent amount of work because it genuinely is. Now, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear whether that's more to do with anything to do with children, or is it to do with your environment? Is it to do with struggling to shut your brain off of an evening? Because some of the really simple tricks are don't look at your phone past 8, 9 o'clock in an evening, depending on the time you're going to bed. But 1 hour before, shut your phone down. Do not start looking at work emails, Instagram reels, because there is actually, again, masses of evidence. Like our phone screens are lit up like a fucking Christmas tree. You are not telling your brain to start switching off. It's actually paying an enormous amount of attention to what's going on your screen. If you are going to start looking at your screen at nighttime, I only learned this the other day from one of my friends. I've never seen it before. You can actually, and again, Jem, this might be a good one for you as well if you're struggling with scrolling. You can actually change your phone into a monochrome setting, and it does actually reduce your phone time by an enormous amount because it's no longer that sparkly, glossy, shiny, colorful. It's no longer that trap that's keeping you sat there. it's way less exciting to the brain and you're a lot more likely to put it down. So changing your phone, don't ask me how to do this, by the way. It took us a while when he recorded this. I was like, oh, he was like, how do you do it on an iPhone? I'm on Android. And I'm like, you are asking the wrong person, hon. I've got no idea, but I'm sure we can find it. Google it, guys, Google it. But this is it. So you might want to change your phone onto monochrome. Reading a book, if you are highly stimulated and you are really struggling, suggest this might be a good one for you. If you're really struggling to put your phone to get your brain to switch off from the stress, the noise, lots of different things going on around you, just literally reading a chapter of a book. And this is a big one in my life as well, because again, when there's a million things flying in around up there, and our brains are like little central nervous systems, actually trying to force yourself to take in something that's completely different, you've really got to concentrate on a book to digest the information. And you can't physically think about another thing if you are actually engaged in the book. And that book could look like anything. It could be something educational. It could be fiction, non-fiction. It could be a goddamn dictionary if you want it to be. Could be the Bible. Do you know what I mean? Whatever you guys like actually want to read, take a bit of time to actually think, right, if I read a chapter a night, it's also going to be great for your cognitive skills, just as a side note as well. Just to read like 8 to 10 pages a day, you'll get through loads of books in a year. Usually woken up by the dogs wanting to go out for the breakfast. Yeah, that used to be our life, so I can relate to that. And thankfully, cavers are actually really good sleepers. But again, if the dog is barking, it's likely to wake you up. You might need to go to bed that bit earlier. So you might need to try and caveat it the other end. And I get it. I get why. So like tonight, we're all not coming off here until gone 8:30. And the last thing you want to do is then go to bed at 9:30 because you feel like you've only had 1 hour of your day. Like I've not finished working until I shut this MacBook down for the night. And if I will try and go to sleep at 10, but I might probably expect 10:30 for tonight, but I will be able to just tag that half an hour on in the morning. But ideally, you want to try and keep your wake and sleep times as similar as you can throughout the week. So, like, you know, those people that can sleep in until like midday on a weekend, I'm like, who the fuck are you? How? Teach me, because I don't know what that looks like. And also, I don't have curtains. So, if you want to get up early, I have curtains. So, it's another trick. You're going to wake up because the daylight is going to begin, whether you like it or not. Where are we? Trick is to have your favorite song as set as alarm. I hate those people. I had an ex-boyfriend that did that, where it was like, "Good morning, the Chris Moyle Show. It's the national radio," and I was like, if that plays one more time. So I don't know how anyone wakes up with a song, but if it works for you, it works. I count before I get up. Husband laughs at me every time. So that is obviously, I'm assuming the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but this is it. It does work. A Lumi clock. So yeah, Victoria, you obviously said that to me the other day. This is it. Again, it's that natural light starting. So if you really want to look into that, there is a lot of evidence to suggest that a hard alarm clock is not always the best thing to do. Again, because we're in that sleep cycle. But it does get a bit easier in the summer because obviously the mornings are a lot lighter. But if you want to wake up more organically out of that sleep state, then the Lumis are a really good idea. Another Illumi, not Illumi, just Lumi. I got up this morning, had a wee, and then got back in bed. No, don't do it. Get up. Get a glass of water. Because if you add that in, it's going to make you feel cold and it's going to make you feel awake. Or cold showers, another one. Tomorrow up at 5, heading for a 13-hour shift back home. So this is it. Like some people's jobs require that discipline. And you don't have a fucking choice because you're not likely to get up you're not likely to snooze. You're likely to go, I've got a really long day. I'm going to get up at the last possible point. So that's a slight advantage to actually working really long shifts. iPhone is McKelly. Don't know what that means. It's anxiety. I've always struggled with sleep. My mind goes mad at night. Genuinely look at reading. I would try and introduce that into your nighttime routine. It can honestly be a game changer. Even things like if you've got a bubble bath, Not that you don't buy a bubble bath, you buy the bath and put bubbles in it, but do you know what I mean? Have a bubble bath and sit and soak and wind down and actually have that time away from screens, sit and read a book, chill out, and it will make your life a little bit easier. I've just deactivated my Instagram to get myself out of the habit of going on it while I sort my sleep out. Yeah, again, if you can detect the cause, then we can obviously work on that. And that's something that you can use it in your check-ins as well for some self-accountability. Put in there about how it's going so we can obviously keep an eye on it. I actually couldn't tell you the hours I sleep due to the amount of times I'm up, but I really want to sleep through and be a morning person as I do see the impact it has on my days. I hit the snooze button, which is 5 mins. Oh, you bounced around then. For a total 1.5 hours the other morning. Yeah, this is it. You're better off actually committing to the cause of the extra sleep, Victoria. If you're going to hit that snooze button for an hour and a half, if you need the sleep, have the fucking sleep. Do you know what I mean? Make a choice to go, you know what? I need the sleep more than to get up early or to hit the training session or whatever. If your brain is tired, take the extra hour and a half and take the pressure off going, I'm gonna get up early. Like you are somebody that manages to fit your workouts in. Like I don't think we've ever had an issue there. But if you need the sleep, take the fucking sleep. Just make sure it's a deliberate choice that you are in control of, and then you'll feel far better about actually making that decision. Magnesium, yeah, so supplement. That's a really good point as well. So if anyone is struggling with sleep, then magnesium, there are benefits to taking that, and you can take it in so many different forms as well. So that's just a consideration. Right. That one went on for a while, didn't it? I've droned, but I hope you all found that useful. Thank you again for reminding me about the record button. But yeah, we'll leave it there because it's been a good one, guys. And I actually really enjoyed putting that one together as well. And it's something that is a massive pillar in my life. And if we can get it a massive pillar in your life too, it's going to serve you. I promise you that. So yeah, peace out, ladies. Love you all. Mwah. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.